So now let's get into adding people to your system. Your team, your employees, your VAs, your staff, your partners, whoever. We did previously already discuss how to send them invites through the email and they can add themselves. That's cool more so for when you're adding maybe like a partner. But when you're adding a staff, I do want you to go in, or I do suggest that you go in through your settings once you're inside your sub account. You want to add it through the sub account and not through the agency, because if you add them, if you're on agency, right? If you're on agency view and you add the staff or your team or whoever through there, you could easily make a mistake and add them to different sub accounts that they shouldn't have access to, especially if they're just an employee or a VA and they're supposed to be working with a specific company. You could accidentally add them to all the companies or to a wrong company, or just a lot of different things could happen. So I do suggest you going into the sub account that you want to add them to, coming into settings, and then coming into my staff to add them here. So I'm just going to show you an example. You'll go to add employee, and then you're going to start right from the beginning. User info, you're going to plug in their like a profile picture, their first name, last name, email, phone number. If they have an extension number, and you'll set their password, right? I would suggest doing a generic password. They can go change it later, or maybe you have a password that you want everybody to use. That's optional. That's totally up to you, but make sure you put a password, right? The password is going to have to contain one number and one symbol. Go to emails. When it comes to the emails, for email signature, this is optional to you. You can enable an email signature for all outgoing messages and include it for all text messages. I do suggest doing this so that your clientele will know who they're talking to every time. So when that person sends out an email or they send out a text message, it's going to let your clientele know who sent them that message, who sent them that email, so that if they wanted to reach back out to that person specifically for whatever reason, they could. Down here, you can add, the actual message that you want it to be, the signature, or you can add a picture. If you had an email signature, you can add it right here. The calendar that you want to connect them to. So maybe you have a VA and their job is specifically for credit consultations. Then you're going to connect them only to the credit calendar. If they're only doing, maybe each person in your company has their own calendar in general, right? Maybe you have a coaching program and you have different coaches coming in, then each coach will have their own calendar, right? So you're going to select the calendar that is assigned to this specific person. Now, permissions. This is my favorite part. Let me just move this out the way. This is my favorite part of everything, of the whole system, because I am a firm believer that nobody in your company should have access to everything in your company. There's no reason. Unless they are a business partner of yours, no employee should have access to everything. They should only have access to what they need, to the necessities, right? So the way you'll do this is what you're giving them permission to access. So anything you don't want them to have access to, you're just going to turn it off. When it comes to campaigns or workflows, instead of turning it off, you can either turn it off or you could put it on read only, where they'll be able to see the workflows, but they can't change anything about it, right? So you'll go through and decide which one to give them access to, or you may want to give them access only to assigned data. Now, when you do this, enabling this option will visually remove things like contacts, opportunities, and conversations from their dashboard if they were not assigned that user. Like, so if this is, you'll see it inside forms, you'll see it inside the workflows where maybe you'll see this inside the workflows where the workflows say who is going to get this notification or who is going to get this email, and maybe it's you're assigning it to somebody. That's where this comes in handy. This is all up to you, which you want to give them access to. Maybe you are the type that wants to give them access to everything. That's your own personal choice, but this is where you go to decide. Next, user roles. You can either give them user, admin. User is where they can see things, but they can't change certain things. It's limited access. Admin gives them access to everything. Then down here, you'll choose their phone number. This is why it's very important that when you create those phone numbers, that you name them, because you don't want to have to come right here or anywhere else in the system and have to guess what each phone number is for, right? So you definitely want to name them, and then you'll choose whatever phone number you want to have and whether or not you want this to forward the calls to the app. Down here, you can upload a voicemail for all unanswered calls. Maybe each person in your company has their own voicemail. That's pretty cool. Same thing how it was with Vonage. User availability. This is where you're going to come in and you're going to, one, choose the meeting location. Whether if it's Zoom, you're going to plug in the Zoom right here. And you're going to choose each team member's time zone. And then you're going to choose their available hours. So let's say, just going to go in and choose a time zone. And then I'm going to pick the hours that I'm available. So let's say I'm only available Monday. Then this is the only day I'm going to select. And I'm going to choose whatever hours I'm going to be available on Monday, right? And maybe I'm available on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. And maybe I have the same hours. If I have the same hours, instead of me having to go through and change it manually for each day, I'm just going to hit apply all for the one that I already changed. And then you'll see that they all went to that same time. Okay. And then maybe I'm available on Sunday too, but Sunday has a different time. Whatever you want, this is where you go to create your schedule for each one of your team members. So once you create this, if somebody calls them outside of their hours, they're going to get that voicemail. Okay. And last but not least is user calendar configuration. So now, if you guys remember when I had you inside the integrations tab, go back and add all of your team members, your VAs, and your employees' email addresses underneath that column where it had the primary Gmail accounts. This is where this plays that major role at, because each one of your team members should have their own calendar attached to their profile. This way, the system is automatically going to recognize it as a primary calendar and check for conflicts with all the other calendars that's attached to the system or that's attached to this sub-account. This plays a major role for coaches or mentors. A lot of times people have group coaching programs where there's different coaches or different mentors in that program, and the clients or mentees may go to different people depending on the day or the situation. The calendar is going to check all of the coaches or all of the mentors' calendars to see which one is available and make sure there's no conflicts. Same thing if it's a law firm and you have multiple lawyers, or a doctor's office and you have multiple doctors, or if it's a nail salon, hair salon, whatever the case may be, is going to check to see who's available throughout the company and who can take this client at that time, and to make sure there's no conflicts within calendars for anybody inside the company. This is also going to play a major role when we're trying to do group calendars, group bookings, or even assigned bookings or round robin. It's going to let you know which team member is available to take that booking. Once you have set everything up, you're just going to hit save, and that's it. That's how you manage your team, your employees, your VAs, what they have access to, what they don't have access to, what roles they play, their voicemails and hours, availability, and their calendars, and making sure that nothing conflicts with anybody else's.